What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the PHDJ podcast. It's Joe Bunn and Mike Walter. We're back. What's
How
up,
are
Mike?
you, sir?
I'm good. Good. Should we say we're pre-recording in case?
Yeah, let's mention we're pre-recording this just in case anything earth-shattering happens in the world or the
There's no real
music
reason.
industry.
Usually there's a reason we're pre-recording, right?
Like yeah, but I think this is just to get 2 and 1 and get next week off.
That's right.
To be honest with you, yeah. It works out sometimes.
Yeah, it's a little to get ahead of the game. Sometimes we need a Wednesday off. So anyway, I'm pre-recording this on June 22nd. So what's up, everybody? Hope you enjoyed the last episode. We've got a user. Wait, not a user. What is that? A listener-generated request today from our friend Josh Lask up in New York. Can you read it, Mike? What is, I saved it.
I cannot. I'm using my phone to shoot this. So, yeah, I sent it to you yesterday. And by the way, before you even say that, let's tip a cap to Josh Lask. Josh is one of those multi-op owners who truly, truly believes in educating his staff and keeping his guys and gals on the cutting edge. He has brought me in numerous times to do microphone workshops. He has brought you up to talk to his crew. He's brought Big Daddy in and Chris D'Amico. Josh and Mike, I believe they're partners. I think that's the setup. Just really, they truly believe in higher education, and I think their staff is a testament to that because those guys are awesome.
I mean, it really is one of the more impressive things I've seen. You know, Mike and I, Mike more so than me, especially with a skill set, you know, as important as teaching this mic workshop, has been to a lot more offices than I have. But I'm always so impressed when people are willing to invest in us coming in, you know, paying us to do this teaching, paying for our flight, hotel, you know, treating us to a couple good dinners. Like, I feel like those people are really setting the bar for their area. You know, they want to maintain their level of professionalism, their clout, their connectivity, their relationships, and just having the best DJs out there. And you know, if it's just like anything else that I can't do or don't want to do, then I hire somebody to help me do it. You know, whether it's graphic design or washing a black car. You know, like I'm not gonna. I've had Mike come here. That was how Mike and I really connected. Yeah. You know, I don't know, 15 years ago. We still never really have determined.
Well, we know it's pre-Facebook because it never comes up in my memory, so it had to be more than 13 years ago. Yeah. And by the way, I had a chance to do a microphone workshop for Jordan Chance's team.
Chicago up there?
Productions. Yeah, while I was out in Chicago on that Sunday before the show, I drove out, worked with his crew. Yeah. He's got a great group of guys. A few of them then came to Marquee, so I was hanging out with them during Marquee. And I loved it. And it's the type of thing I love doing, and I think I'm pretty good at it because guys bring me back multiple times. So
I'm telling you, if you're listening to this, and I'm just going to speak on it from a standpoint of a third party, because Mike won't hype himself up. But if you have any interest in doing this, reach out to Mike, because, you know, once the season probably slows down, there's a few months, or either at the end of the year or the beginning of next, get Mike to come to your office and do this mic workshop with your people. They will learn so much. I've done it in Vegas. Like I said, I had him come here before 15 years ago. But if you want somebody to really analyze, help, train your DJs specifically and intentionally on being a better MC, this is the guy. It is. I can't think of anybody better to do it. He does not Simon Cowell them or shit on them or make them feel embarrassed. He is very good at taking the best parts and then breaking down their weakest parts and telling them how to be better. So
yeah, it's funny. Jordan was like, "Don't hold back. You can lay into my guys." And I'm like, Jordan, that's really not my style. I'm not here to beat anybody up. I'm going to point out what I think somebody could do better. I'm going to highlight what I think they did well. And his guys were really good to begin with. So it wasn't a matter of trying to build anybody up. I was kind of working around the edges because they were so solid to begin with.
Sure. Yeah. Lux guys are good, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, okay.
So read Josh's
I'll read it.
Query.
I keep losing it. Sorry. Here we go. Here's the question, or the listener request. What would you both do if you weren't DJs? Pretend you never got into this, hard to even imagine, but in an alternate reality, what would Joe Bunn and Michael Walter be? I would love to hear what you both would do if you could take a time machine back and pick a new path. Be creative and assume you could have obtained any college degree or necessary training. Who would you guys be in an alternate universe? Sounds very Marvel movie.
It's funny. I just finished a book about. It's kind of like it was kind of like a Matrix thing. Like, are we living in a simulated reality? And the book blew my mind. I was really tripping out reading this book.
What is it called? What was it called?
What was it called? Sea of Tranquility, which the title had nothing to do with. It basically combined time travel with the question of, are we living in a alternate reality? So it was really trippy, and I enjoyed it. I finished it on the way home from Chicago last week, and blew my mind.
All right, so
an alternate universe where you or I did not discover the DJ industry.
Started out, mine. I feel like
so. If you read my book, Running Your Multi-App, I actually mentioned this in the very beginning of my book, that there was a time where I dropped out of college. I was in my early 20s, and I had two career paths kind of lined up. One was radio broadcasting, and the other was becoming an umpire in baseball.
Oh, I forgot.
I remember I had sent away there were tech schools, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and there was some umpire school, I forget the name of it. And I vividly, to this day, remember laying on my bed in my bedroom in my parents' house with both brochures and trying to picture what my future would look like. Am I going to be Howard Stern, or am I going to be an umpire? And at some point, I chose broadcasting, which is how I stumbled into mobile DJing, because my goal was to get into radio, but I was recruited by Star DJs, and I got into mobile stuff instead. But I still, to this day, every once in a while, watch a baseball game and say to myself, wow, I wonder if I had pursued that. They said, and this was part of the holdback, that they say it takes an average of 20 years to get to the major leagues. So you have to toil away in the minor leagues for a couple of decades before you even have a chance. And there's no guarantee, and I just thought, man, I don't know if I'm ready to commit 2 decades of my life, umpiring for shitty money in minor league ballparks before I have the chance to get to the major leagues. So,
can I ask a dumb question? Is there only one umpire, the guy that's behind the mound, or besides?
No. There's umpiring is a 4-man crew, and those umpires rotate. So I believe they go clockwise. I believe, I could be wrong about that. So in other words, the home plate umpire the next day moves to third, the third guy moves to second to first. I believe it might be counterclockwise. So obviously, I would have known that if I went to school.
Or daily. You're saying
per game.
So every inning they move?
No, per game. So
per game.
Today I'd be the home plate umpire. Tomorrow I move to third base. Then I move to second base, and they also make sure that the same umpires don't work with the same teams for too long in a row, because you don't want to be umping 12 Yankee games in a row.
Sure.
Because either you're going to get friendly with some of the guys, or conversely, one guy's going to argue with you, and now you got to, so they do try to move the umpires around a lot.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, it did seem like especially because I love baseball, it seemed like an interesting career to take up, but obviously I didn't do it.
Yeah, no, that part would have definitely stymied me as well. 20 years at like the Zebulon Mudcats, which is our team here.
And then I'll add one more. My first wife was a lawyer, and I think I could have been a lawyer were it not for the reading part. She used to bring home, Joe, when I tell you, she used to bring home stacks and stacks of paperwork and would get through it in one night. And it amazed me how quickly she could read and absorb things.
Yeah.
But when it came to the courtroom stuff and the arguing, I think that I could have done well. I just wouldn't have been good at reading law and absorbing that and everything else.
But that's interesting, though, because you're a hardcore reader.
Yeah, but I'm slow, dude. It takes me forever to read a book.
It doesn't seem that way. Like when I'm like, God, that guy just finished another book. Like I I don't know. It doesn't.
I put a lot of hours into it. I'm really not a fast reader. I wish I were, but then again, I think people who read too fast don't enjoy every nuance and every word, and I do. A lot of times, like, I'll read a line,
Saw that, and you highlight it, right?
And I highlight it, and I stop and pause on it. There are some sentences that to me are just beautiful, and I go, God damn, I want to appreciate that. I don't want to move on yet. So I think part of my slow reading is my own fault.
I get it.
What's up? Sorry to interrupt this amazing podcast, but I want to tell you a quick story. I love the beach, and living at the Jersey Shore, I get to enjoy it a lot during the summer. But because I have DJ Event Planner, I am never out of touch. I have scheduled events from my beach chair and sent contracts to clients while baking in the summer sun. Can you do that? If you have DJ Event Planner, you sure can. This system does it all. It streamlines everything you need to run a successful DJ business in one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner is perfect for solo DJ companies as well as large multi-ops. Your sales will increase with their best-in-the-business CRM tools and automated emails. And your customer satisfaction will go through the roof as your clients start to use the awesome online planning tools. Best of all, there's no software to install and no backups to worry about. So hit pause on this podcast, head to djeventplanner.com and start your free 30-day trial. Then you can return and finish listening to all of our brilliance.
Man, as I look back, I've made videos before about other paths that I could have taken and other small things that I did in the interim of building, the Bunn DJ company brand, if you will. And, it was real estate, and it was Red Bull, and it was Camel cigarettes, and it was, and the only things.
Wait, what do you mean Camel cigarettes?
Dude, this shit was crazy. So I'm trying to give you a year. I feel like let's call it 2000. So 22 years ago, right?
Now, are you DJing yet at all at this point?
Oh yeah. I mean, okay. Because I started when I was 13. Like, I'm DJing. I had played my high school prom. I had played all through Carolina. So I graduated in 94. Thought that was the end of it. In fact, there's a T-shirt hanging in the back of my office, and it says DJ Joe Bunn, the final year tour, 93 to 94. Like, I was like, oh, that was fun. I'm gonna quit and just do something else. Moved to Wilmington, started a hat and T-shirt company, a mail order company. Fail quickly. Went back to just DJing in the beach bars and running with lecherous people and doing terrible things and being an idiot and a young idiot, and then living at the beach and sleeping till noon, and then just repeat the cycle every day. And then when I left there, I came to Raleigh in 2000 or 99, and I get this job from, the newspaper or something. It was working for some third party for RJ Reynolds, because around that time, the government had banned any sort of cigarette advertising. No billboards, no commercials, no radio, no nothing. So they hired companies to hire people to do promotions. And what we would do, I had this girl named Blair that worked for me. I remember we had a landline, and like, she wore some, I don't want to tell the story. Anyway,
go ahead, man. No.
she wore so much makeup that I couldn't use the phone, because if I did, my face would be covered with this like bronzer. God bless her. Anyway, and I basically made her do everything. But basically what the job was we would then in turn hire college students to go to the bars and do what was called pack drop. So they would go up and go, hey, are you 21? Yes, I'm 21. Can I see your ID? Yep. We would write down all their information, and we'd give them 2 packs of cigarettes. And they were usually some kind of new, like, Turkish blend Camel cigarettes. And I did it for like a year, and I'm like, man, people in my family have died of cancer. Like, what am I doing?
Were you a smoker?
No, I'd never smoked a cigarette in my life. I've never smoked weed or cigarettes ever in my life. And my dad had smoked. I remember when he turned around 40, my sister and I rode him so hard to stop that he stopped, and he went cold turkey, never smoked again. To this day, he's almost 80. And he smoked those Camel filterless. I remember that. No filter. And you know, when we were 16, my friends would come over and they would always hang out at my house because my parents didn't care if everybody drank over there, and they were smoking, you know, filtered cigarettes. And I remember that my dad took one out of my friend's mouth. He bit the filter off. He spit it and hit the kid in the eye and then put it back in his mouth and said, "Smoke it now."
I have a very similar story. My first job was at the local church, and we had an old Monsignor who smoked the same thing, Camels. And he came down to my office. I had an office. I used to answer the phones from like 5 to 8 o'clock at night. And he comes down and he goes, "Hey, Mike, can you go get me a pack of Camels?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." He goes, "Can I have one of yours in the meantime?" And I used to smoke Marlboro Lights. So I give him one, and he breaks the filter off, and he goes, "Now, this is an 80-year-old Monsignor." He goes, "Pussy." I will never forget that.
My dad said to this kid, Chris Dixon, he goes, "Smoke it now, pussy."
Yeah.
Oh, God. Jesus, that's funny. Anyway.
Well, I knew the answer to your question would be something entrepreneurial because what I know about you, Joe, is you were always going to be an owner. You were always going to find some path to running a successful business.
Right. I think at the end of the day, and I did dabble in this and I spent a fortune on it that I never recoup, is either music management, like having an artist or stable of a roster of artists and managing them, or being an engineer, like actually in the studio. Like I looked at that Full Sail. There's a place that teaches recording engineering down in Orlando, Florida, called Full Sail. Still there. I looked at that brochure and that website 1,000 times. Should I move down there? Should I go to this school? Should I learn how to engineer? Because I loved it. When I managed those bands, I loved being in the studio all day. Like we would go in and sometimes at night and wouldn't come out until the morning sometimes, making beats, recording songs, you know. And I felt like if I had not done this, I would have definitely been in some sort of artist management or A&R where I was finding talent for a label. But you know, that wasn't really, we were sort of hot here for a minute in North Carolina. Like if you go back to 90 through 94, every article in Rolling Stone was Chapel Hill is the next Seattle, you know, because we had all these bands. Ben Folds was there and this, that, and the other. And people thought that literally Chapel Hill, North Carolina was going to be the next Seattle in the early 90s. And I interned at a record label called Mammoth there. And, you know, I just felt like that was going to be what I did. In some way, I was going to manage a huge band and I was going to be on the road, or I was going to be working in New York at Atlantic Records and finding the next John Mayer or whatever it was.
So I know this wasn't part of Josh's question, but I'm just thinking about this as we're both talking. Do you think there is a post-DJ career for you? Or do you think that will you take this to retirement? Or do you think at some point you're going to say, hey, I'm going to try something else in my 50s or even 60s? I mean, some people start careers in their 60s, you know.
Nah, man, it's some variation of this, whether it's, you know, not playing anymore, step back, I'm just the agent, you know, booking the shows, or step back and, you know, keep creating content to help other DJs, or even putting, you know, the Ryan Seacrest version, younger Joe Bunn in my place and just write the scripts for him. Or, you know, I really believe that there's, especially if you're like Mike and I, and you are continuously filling the pipeline with new talent. You know, Mike is not going out there looking for the 55-year-old DJ, and neither am I. I want the 25 to 35-year-old guy. You know, my 50-year-old guys like me, they're down to once or twice a week. I mean, once or twice a month now. Yeah. Hey, black out this date for me, Joe. Black out this day. One guy told me, look, Memorial Day to Labor Day, not working. Okay, man. You know, and I respect that. He's been with me 12 years. Like, if you want to take the summer off, go to the beach, go to the beach. So I do think that there's longevity. I still don't believe in the whole concept of AI and, you know, technology taking over the job of a live DJ in the setting that Mike and I do. I don't. I don't see that. Maybe in my son's lifetime, but not mine. And I think I'll step aside one day and won't go out and do shows, but I still feel like you can run a DJ company, I love creating and building the DJ booths. I think I've helped a lot of people look a lot better out there than you know, a shitty burlap tablecloth and, you know, a road case, and I'm proud of that. And the education stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I believe that DJing has legs, regardless if you're out there doing it or not. And I think Mike would agree.
Yeah, agreed. I can visualize, and this is sort of a branch off of what we do and what I do. I can visualize some kind of public speaking as a second, you know, almost a retirement kind of career, where I don't financially need to do it, but it's something I enjoy doing, and maybe have a message broader than just the DJ industry. But that would really be it. I think once I hang up the headphones, I think I'm going to launch into retirement.
Would you ever, though, Mike, you know, change the messaging or change the seminar to something more, I call it rah-rah, you know, more inspirational, more motivational, and be the guy that gets 10K to go speak at Ford?
I can picture that. I'm never going to be a Tony Robbins, but I think, you know, I dabbled in that a number of years ago. I was doing that seminar called 10 Things You Can Do to Have a Better Day. And that was definitely a universal thing. It was not geared for our industry whatsoever. And I did that seminar for a few groups, you know, not in the DJ industry, and it went over really well. So yeah, I'm not a I'm going to fire you up and make you walk on hot coals kind of guy. But I think I've got some fundamental good advice about, you know, some of the stuff I did in our workshop about balance and you know, finding your passions and pursuing that. I think I can deliver that message to a broader group than just DJs.
There's one, yes. I don't feel like I could say the same about my set, but I do feel 100% that, especially if you connected with the right, you know, there's speakers agents and there's literally a whole tour of like colleges you could do, and they pay a shitload of money. Like, I feel like you would be good for that. And I think, you know, it all goes back to what I was saying earlier. You know, probably one of the reasons I never did go in the music business was because it kind of phased out in North Carolina. I wasn't willing to leave North Carolina because I don't really love traveling. Like, I needed to be in New York or LA or Nashville. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to leave here. And so I feel like you, though, you enjoy traveling. You know,
I really do. I love it.
I saw like you made a whole thing out of the Chicago thing. Like, you went to a ball game. You trained a company. You did this, that, and the other. Like, you made a thing out of it.
Yeah, I flew into Chicago a couple days before Marquee 2 weeks ago, and did all, because I had been to Chicago a number of times, but never really did any sightseeing. And I went to a ball game Friday night, and then Saturday I spent kind of strolling around the center of the city. And I can say this: Chicago's a beautiful city, and I love cities. I prefer cities over. You know, give me a city rather than a scary rural area. That scares me, not a city. And yeah, I was really impressed with Chicago. But yes, I do love travel. I like seeing a lot of the world.
I know you do.
Yeah, I know you do. And if I can do it on somebody else's dime, all the better.
Even better, and get paid. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, Josh, I hope that answered your question. I don't know if there was any takeaways for anybody on this, but at least you heard some good stories from.
I think after 5.5 years, we're entitled to a vanity show, Joe. It was interesting.
It's the P word, which is probably a record.
I was quoting an 80-year-old Monsignor. I will never forget. I heard so many funny lines when I was working in the church as a kid. I remember one. You know, they used to do confessions every Saturday, and one of the priests was in the confessional box, and he came in about a half hour later, and he goes, "If anybody walks in, buzz me. I'll be up in my room." And I said, "No confessions today, Father." And he said, "I'm not going to sit in the phone booth if nobody's making a call." Oh God, I just love that.
Good, man. Yeah, man. I would go to. What do you? Oh, sorry. That shows how much I've been to church, like Episcopalian church, you know, which is like a step down from Catholic.
Yeah, Kelly's.
Yeah, right. And man, I was what do they call acolyte? You know, where you would light the candles at the beginning and stuff. And we were just shitty little kids, man. And we did this thing one day, and I'll never forget it. Forget the guy's name, the preacher, the priest. It's not a priest, but a preacher there. And we were up on like the third floor of this church, and I guess we were, you know, I guess we would have rehearsals for acolyte practice or something. And we shook up a 2-liter of Coke and we dropped it out the window. And if it hits directly on the lid, it takes off like a rocket.
Wow.
This guy caught us doing it, and I've never heard somebody cuss so bad in my life. I was like, it's like,
Preacher, that's
yeah. I was like, wow, we just got cussed out by a preacher. Like, we're going to hell at this point.
You screwed up when the preacher cusses you.
I was like, I've never been cussed out that bad by somebody.
That's funny.
Oh, man. Anyway, good times. I hope you guys like this one. We don't have a teaser for the next one, do we, Mike? We're not far ahead.
I don't have a topic in there. We'll come up with something.
Well, anyway, it'll be great. So y'all tune in. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye.